All right. Welcome to Inside the Grind podcast, the podcast for people building real coffee shops. Every episode, we sit down with someone who's deep in the day-to-day, hiring, fixing, worrying, making hard choices, and still showing up to serve. These are honest stories from founders in the thick of it. No fluff, no ego, just the real grind and what's getting them through. If you're building something on your blog, this one's for you. Brought to you by Coffee Futures Fund.
You have said this several times about the community aspect and how you're a community oriented coffee shop. So it's one thing about creating that experience for your customers in the coffee shop, right? But I'm also curious to know, and if you'd love to share about how do you interact with the community outside the coffee shop? You talked about raising money and donate, excuse me, and donating money 60,000 and plus. To the community. So it's also important to have your ears and eyes at the right place so that you can really, be on the ground, listen to them and then support wherever an opportunity arises or creating opportunities. So what does it mean to support the community? How do you understand that? How do you listen to them and how do you actively support them?
So part of that is there's two different answers to that question. One is how do we do that now? And one is how did we build the capacity to do that now? Right? And the answer is going to be different if you asked me in that first 3 years, right? Yeah. Because the first thing we had to do is we had to build trust. And that's what we did in that first 3 years. We went out to the nonprofits and we said, what do you need? How can we help? Please let us help you. Please let us help you. And some of them completely ignored us. They don't ignore us anymore, right? And, so that in that first time period is we built trust. We really put in the work to say, can we donate coffee to your board meetings? Can we have a day where a portion of our sales benefits whatever project you're working on? Whatever it is, can we highlight you to our customers? We built that trust in that first amount of time. Now, today, the answer is a little different because as we progressed through our 10-year timeline, we built programmatic measures, actual programming to support our community. I will assure anyone who is listening to this and kind of saying, well, why do you want to do that? Every dollar that you put back into your community comes back to you fivefold, absolutely fivefold. So we have a variety of different programs, and I'll touch on a handful of them, that put money back into the community and connect with the community and help us keep our ear to the ground for what the community needs are. So one is, for us, it is a third Thursday guest bartender. So again, we have the best espresso martini. What you can do with alcohol and coffee is astonishing. Together, we have a cold brew moonshine drink that is phenomenal. So on a third Thursday, we have a guest bartender come in who is the executive director of a nonprofit locally. They bring their whole board, they bring all of their clients, and we donate a portion of sales back to whatever project they're working on. And then, of course, we help our customers know who they are and what they're working on. They are terrible bartenders. I love them all very much, but that's not the point. The point is for them to get behind the bar and start talking about what the United Way is doing, what Friends of Old Town is doing, what the SPCA is doing, whatever it is. And for them to get comfortable in our space, raising money in our space and bringing their audience to our space. So we have those opportunities that people call us for and say, I want a spot on the guest bartending list, right? And, it's a program like that that helps me to know that we're doing the right thing because they're calling us and I'm saying, okay, what are you fundraising for right now? And how can we help you do that? There's other things like coffee sleeves. So everyone starts a business and the first thing they do is they go spend a ton of money putting their logo on a coffee sleeve. And some people think that's a great idea. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I will tell you what I think is a better idea is when I have nonprofit organizations specifically that aid children, they have their kids draw on my coffee sleeves, 1,000 sleeves at a time. And then I stamp the back that says this was made by our local children's home, and 10 cents of every sleeve or 50 cents of every sleeve or whatever it is going to go back to whatever you decide as the coffee shop owner goes back to that home, so you write them a check for $200 or $300. And then what happens is people take photos of that sleeve when they get that cup and they share it on Facebook and they share it on Instagram, and you're going to get a lot more shares of that than you're ever going to get of the logo on the outside of that cup, ever. And it is all advertising that you paid $300 for that is more valuable than gold. So these little programmatic things that we do are reaching into the community in these really unique and innovative ways, and saying, how can I help you? Or just calling up the executive director of the children's home and saying, would a $300 check be helpful for you this month? And I can tell you, for our children's home, a $300 check covers the milk. So, they're scrambling for it. And I say, okay, well, let me bring you over a box of sleeves, and you guys just sit there with some crayons, and over the course of the next month, draw smiley faces and rainbows and puppy dogs and kittens and anything else. And then we just ship them back out with the cups, versus paying for having my logo printed on there. That is, arguably, once you're established and once, the brand visibility is there, it's a lot less beneficial for me than having people tagging my business because I've said, your sleeve today was drawn by Elena, and look at this beautiful puppy dog, and she is waiting for someone to adopt her at the children's home, and we're benefiting them this month. So we reach into the community in a variety of ways, and we have set these programs up so that the community knows that they exist, and they reach back to us to try to get part of the funding, because it seems like a small amount of money, a $100 check, a $200 check, a $300 check. But, one of my recent bartenders, I wrote him a check for $250, and it was his very first fundraiser for this new nonprofit. And I said, let's do this 4 times a year. That's $1,000. And it's 2 hours of your time once a month, so it makes a big difference. And so setting up that programmatic kind of aspect and saying we have a defined charitable giving program, it makes it a lot easier to see where your money is going in your community. And it makes it a lot easier to say, these are the things that we're going to fund. The things that we're not going to fund are people walking and asking for baskets and donations for whatever, because it's not in our heart. That's not the way that we give. We have avenues for them to do spirit nights and things like that. We never necessarily tell anybody no. We say, put some investment with us instead. And just putting in the time to have that work and putting in an advisory council of people who help you come up with those programs. We have a little advisory board for our charitable giving that helps us manage those programs, and they're volunteers. They come in for a free cup of coffee and they say, have you thought about doing this? And we're like, that's a great idea. Let's do that. So, but again, that when I talk about that $60,000 that we've raised and donated, that has come back to me tenfold. And these programs have they are the foundation upon which the entire business exists. And they are the reason why we have continued to exist and made it through COVID. Without them, I'm not sure we would have. I'm not sure the community would have supported us to the same extent if we hadn't built that trust early on and said, by supporting us, we promise you these programs will continue to exist and will continue to do good work here in this region.
The way you tangibly connect with the community and make it a virtuous cycle, right? Where they feel useful at the same time. I mean, they can contribute and they get something in return, which is also so helpful. So that's beautiful. Truly a masterclass, honestly. I mean, that's the only word that comes to mind when you shared that and walk me through the different examples and how it's really supporting the community of that. So how about we switch gears and talk about mentorship? I mean, you do this on a daily basis. You're part of boards, and you also guide a lot of young folks, not young, anyway, you guide a lot of
emerging entrepreneurs. Yes.
You also have to be coachable. It's not just about the mentor to be the best. Mentor could be great, but the impact would be so different. The teacher is a teacher, right? But the students in a class react to her words, her teachings in a different way. So what are some of the things that you have seen that, really makes a mentee stand out, or more importantly, make them set up for success to get the best from what the mentor is sharing? Any advice or any best practices, I don't know, for a mentee?
Take a step back before any time you talk to someone, whether it's in an educational opportunity, a one-on-one, any class that you take. Just take a step back and look in the mirror and say, I do not know everything. Entrepreneurs tend to be really headstrong, go-getter, self-driven, hard-headed, kind of folks. So we really have to say, I don't know everything. And I can learn something from every single person that I meet, regardless of how old they are, regardless of nationality, sex, gender, race, everything. I can learn something from everybody if I come into that conversation saying, I don't know everything, and with an open heart for learning. Second, and I think we need to do better about this as a society, is to take an evaluation of how you learn, figure out how you learn, and really get in touch with that. Some people are observational learners. They cannot sit in a class and read a textbook and learn anything, but they can watch someone do it, and they can watch someone complete a process, and they can then remanufacture that afterwards. Take an assessment of how you learn and get comfortable talking about how you learn. So if you have a mentor who, or a teacher or an instructor, whatever, in any capacity, who is worth listening to, you should be able to say, can I take a step back because I'm having some trouble here, because this is not actually how I learn. And I could really use your help reframing this in a way that I learn. So maybe the audio, some people are not audio learners. Maybe it's a matter of reading the transcript, and that's how they learn. And being able to have an honest conversation with the person who is instructing you and saying, I'd really appreciate it if you could maybe provide me with an alternative learning path to help me tackle this concept. And I've had students across a wide range of educational opportunities where, they have said, I enjoy listening to your voice. I enjoy listening to your lecture. I'm not learning anything. It's no disrespect to you. It's that's not how I learn. And I've had to say, okay, how about if I give you a reading list, reading list that taught me how to do this? And, then they're going to start to get it. And I literally went to my bookshelf and said, okay, we're going to look at Good to Great. We're going to look at 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. We're going to look at The Purple Cow. We're going to look at whatever it is. And I want you to read these chapters in these 7 books. And then come back and I want you to talk to me about it. I want you to teach me about it. Then I know whether or not they got whatever it is that I'm talking about. So first of all, step one, understand that you don't know everything and that you can learn from every single person that you're talking about. And step 2 is to take a self-assessment about how you learn and to really be able to say, is the methodology that is being presented to me the way that I'm learning, is that why I'm not getting the maximum amount of benefit out of it? And to be comfortable with the people who are teaching you to say, I'm struggling with the material, but I don't think it's the material. I think it's because it's being presented to me in a way that is not how that I learn. And so I think those two things together, we need to do better to be looking inside of ourselves and saying, it's not a deficiency to be an observational learner. It's not a deficiency to be a learner who only learns through reading a transcript. All humans are different. Our brains, these little electric meatballs up here, are really weird things, right? So I think that we have to do a better job of saying that we're all different, we all learn different, and that we are going to start communicating our needs more effectively in the workplace and in classes and organizations so that we can all work together in a more effective and efficient manner and get to the learning outcomes faster. And I think that's the 2 ways that you get to the learning outcomes faster, is recognizing that you can learn something from everybody and recognizing that you might need to say, hey, I need to raise my hand here because I have a question, and I think it's more effectively answered by me explaining to you that this is not the way that you teach is not the way that I learn.
This is also, sort of more true for adult learners, right? Because there has been a gap where you were put into this sort of structured space of learning. So there is a lot of hesitation, there's a lot of inertia, and there's a little bit of maybe embarrassment as well to ask questions, to stand out and say that, hey, maybe I don't understand this, or maybe I don't know what I'm seeing or reading. So yeah, that's true. To give up that inhibitions and be open and just ask.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with being, almost 50 years old and not knowing how something works. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it, because it's not know the answer to the question is one thing, right? To not be able to admit you don't know it. And that's something entirely different. And we've got to get past the point of saying, you should know this by now, because you don't know anything about that person's experience, and you don't know anything about what they're bringing to the table. I have a student right now in my class who's struggling with some of the materials surrounding some principles of management in the course that I teach, but they can disassemble and reassemble an aircraft, right? So as an adult, they're an adult learner. So I think it matters to say that it's okay to not know. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what your life experience is. You have to come to the table saying, I don't know everything. And I need to use you as a resource to fill in a gap for me and to learn something that I didn't know yesterday, to continually improve. And I think that for the entrepreneurs that are going to be in this course in particular, that's essentially what they need to do. They need to make a commitment to continuous improvement. And it might take, they may not get every core concept hammered down by the end of the program. But if they get a majority of them and then make a commitment to continuous improvement on the rest of it, they will, again, shorten that gap from day one to success. And that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to shorten that gap from day one to success. And they're only going to do that if they admit that they don't know everything, and if they admit that they might have to assess material from a wide range of formats and a wide range of people to fill in all the gaps in their historical knowledge and their experience.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. How about I wrap up with the final question, which is about Coffee Futures Fund, Victoria. So I'm curious to know, how do you feel about, for example, if you were speaking with, again, an emerging coffee shop owner who's listening to you right now, why would you recommend them to apply to fund?
So it's just a matter of you can get the information that we're trying to deliver to you from other places. However, you cannot get it all in one place. So you can't get the information about effectively running your business. You cannot get the information about developing that brand store. You can't get it all in one place. And you can't get it from people who have had the experience having to find it in one place. Restaurants are tricky, right? And, a cafe, a coffee house, a food and beverage establishment in and of itself is tricky because the volume of knowledge that you have to make that successful is truly unlike anything else that you will be faced with, period. This is not retail. This is not starting a chauffeur business. This is an animal that is completely unleashed, right? When we talked about the circus, right? We're looking at the bookends of storytelling, go back to the beginning, right? This is a circus. When you open that door and turn that key for that first day, congratulations, you have bought yourself a circus. And the Coffee Futures Fund, you have an opportunity to connect with people who have a wide range of experiences to answer any question that you come up with. I can almost guarantee you, it doesn't matter what state they're operating in. It doesn't matter the size of their business. It doesn't matter the type of coffee shop that they provide, the type of person they are, how old they are, does not matter. There is not a question that someone is going to come up with that someone in this group is not able to answer based on experience. There is very little that you're going to face as a new operator that one of us has not seen before because of the nature of this animal right here. We have had people who have come to work and had to be dismissed that day. We have had the health inspector show up on the worst possible day for the health inspector to show up. We have had ceilings cave in. We have had kitchens catch on fire. We have, you name it. We have had it. And, for folks who have been in this business for a long time, we've had a global pandemic. We've navigated through having a governor tell me I can't open my doors. I have to shut down. We have navigated through having customers scared to come into the business because they were afraid they were going to catch this virus we didn't know anything about. So I think that signing up for the Coffee Futures Fund provides you an opportunity to access an encyclopedia of information about running a business successfully, about running a coffee operation successfully, and having access to Rainmakers. That's something that someone has, I am trying to embrace this title because a couple people have called me that before. I'm trying to embrace this title because when they come into my business and they will say, I operate X, Y, or Z and my sales are down and I don't know how to fix it. If I sit there and talk to them for 10 minutes, I have 50 fundraising ideas. I have 50 sales ideas. I have whatever it is. So you have access to these people who you're able to say, I'm really struggling with this. And I don't have to have visited your location to talk to you because I have that Rainmaker mentality. We have danced around every sales strategy that we could possibly deploy to get to where we are today. And we are happy to give that expertise to people who are new so that they don't waste as much money as we did in the beginning getting to success. I would like to help them get to success as quickly as possible because I want to get that phone call from them 5 years from now that says your idea, your voice, you listening to me has made all the difference for my family and for my business and for myself. And that's the only repayment that I will ever need from anybody is for them to connect with me later to say, that idea made me $10,000 and I owe you for that. And then they can send me a bag of their coffee and we'll be square.
That's awesome. So I just take it in. Rainmaker mentality. I think that's my
Rainmaker.
word.
That's it.
Wow, that's amazing. No.
Well, I'm appreciative of this opportunity to share anything I can with the people in this program to help make the program successful for a long time and to have, a point 10 years from now when there's all these business operators in the country and who have just really said this was the turning point for them personally as professionals and entrepreneurs. That is incredibly valuable and moving experience for me. And I'm really excited to be a part.
Me too. I mean, we're all doing this together. And in a lot of ways, you're lifting me, helping me see the vision that I had set, all with all gratitude. Thank you for all the time that you're giving me.
Of course.
Amazing. That's awesome. Well, I guess that's sort of a wrap to the interview. Your TEDx. I had the best seat in the house.
That's it for this episode of Inside the Grind. If something here helped, make sure to subscribe and pass it to another coffee shop or a friend. We all need each other more than we admit. To learn more or join the community, head to coffeefutures.fun. This movement is just getting started. Until next time, keep growing. Your shop matters more than you know.